actually live on Facebook. 1 second here. I hate when this happens.
Yeah, you are live. At least
See,
that's
that's
what.
what they're telling
What
you.
I'm seeing.
Okay, that's perfect, man. So anyway, you've already heard from Kenwyne. Welcome to this week's edition of the Sanctuary Sports sponsored Sol Meets, where we're joined by co-presenter and current Sol affiliate from Portland, Oregon, Gavin Little. And today's guest is none other than former Sunderland striker Kenwyne Jones. Welcome, lads. How are you both doing today?
Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
So here's what we're going to do, Kenwyne. I know that this is not new to you, but I have to do this massive, big you up before everyone it all starts. So I'm going to give you those at home that may not be aware of Kenwyne's trials and tribulations. Here's some background or history on the player. So a native of Trinidad and Tobago, Kenwyne would start his career with Joe Public in the Trinidad and Tobago Pro League in 2002. After 11 games, he transferred to W Connection Football Club, where he'd scored 30 goals in 31 appearances for the Savanetta boys. Already showing promise, Jones would make his full international debut, the national team at the age of 18 in January of 2003 against Finland. In 2004, the massive Trinidadian would make his way to the UK and sign for Southampton. Kenwyne would spend time on loan with Chris Turner's Sheffield Wednesday, whereas 7 goals in 7 games would help the Owls secure promotion to the Championship. Returning to the Dell, his further 3 goals in 3 games was not enough to keep the Saints for the drop. He'd managed 6 goals in another 68 outings for the Saints. 2006 saw Kenwyne represent his national team at the World Cup, making his debut against England. This squad also included former Sunderland players Stern John, Dwight York, and Carlos Edwards. A year on, Jones would continue to live the dream, as he was not only named Trinidad and Tobago Football Federation's Player of the Year, but he'd get his first big move. See what I did here? Joining Roy Keys' Sunderland for a fee of £6 million. First big move, Kenwyne. Not Southampton, Sunderland. First big move.
Relatively.
He'd make his debut for the Black Cats in September against Manchester United before scoring his first of 26 goals for the club against Reading. The Caribbean King proved unplayable on his day, and he'd be linked to a few high-profile moves whilst at Sunderland, including Liverpool, Chelsea and Spurs. The then Chelsea captain John Terry stated, "Jones was fantastic, and I've played against him twice now. He's a very good player, very hard-working, and probably the best in the air in the entire Premier League. He really is that good." Roy Keane would resign from the club midway through Jones's second year, leaving Ricky Fraser in charge until a certain Steve Bruce took over at the start of the 2009-2010 season. Kenwyne would wreck his knee ligaments while playing for Trinidad and Tobago against England in June 2008 after collision with goalkeeper David James. This resulted in a delay to the start of the 2008-2009 campaign, but he was more than happy to come off the bench for Dwight York in late October victory over the Mags at the Stadium of Light. Get in. Jones didn't see eye to eye with Mrs. Doubtfire, and he would be transferred to Stoke City at the end of the 3-year stint with the Mackhams. Believe it or not, this was due to the fact that Kenwyne was not from Wallsend. Now you have to understand that Steve Bruce is from Wallsend, apparently. So
exactly.
Still, he would be pushed out of the door, and much was Jones' dislike for the Geordie shitbag, he'd take a wage cut to join the Potters. He'd play in the 2011 FA Cup final for Stoke against Manchester City, and then the 2010-11 season as joint top goal scorer. UEFA Europa League football beckoned the following season, and Jones didn't disappoint with a brace against FC Thun of the Swiss Super League. Due to other signings, Kenwyne would be restricted to Cup and European games, but he'd score a goal of historic proportions against Dynamo Kiev to earn a 1-1 draw and secure Stoke's qualifications to the knockout stage. Jones would also be named captain of the Soccer Warriors that year. He'd leave Stoke during the January transfer window of 2014 to join the Bluebirds of Cardiff City, scoring 19 goals in 67 games before joining Al Jazeera of the UAE Arabian Gulf League on loan. At the start of the 2016-27 season, Kenwyne would move stateside to be with new MLS franchise Atlanta United. After 17 goals in 2 games, Jones returned to Trinidad and Tobago League for Central FC, hanging up his playing boots at the end of that season. In all, Kenwyne would amass 475-plus club career appearances with 158 goals. He'd represent his country on 82 occasions, scoring 23 times. He'd play in Europe, in a World Cup, captain his national team, and be named Sunderland Player of the Year for the 2007-2008 season. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenwyne Jones. How was that, Kenwyne?
Wow.
There you go,
After
man.
that after that long, lengthy introduction, I think the interview's over now.
I've answered all my questions. It's wonderful. So, Kenwyne, can you tell the people at home what you're up to these days?
Uh, um, not much really, besides doing a bit of coaching. But we know worldwide it's a bit difficult right now because of the coronavirus pandemic. Apart from that, just about to go to university to do a bit of sport management. I've more or less started the journey of getting into politics as well. Um,
Okay.
Apart from that, I just like relaxing. Right now I'm away with my family and very close to the sea, I would say.
Okay. Well, I've read that you were from a truly blessed from come from an athletic family, and I believe your uncle Phil was prolific national team forward in his time. Didn't he play for
Yeah,
the Strikes?
my entire family, involved in sports. That's I think generally everyone, is involved in sports, but the way we grew up, those are the things that were our pastimes. We more or less were around before the proper age of social media and all of that, and we're really big on being outside of the house rather than inside. Getting
Yeah.
caught up in TV and that type of stuff. So every chance that you'd get as a young kid, you would try and be involved in some sort of mischief. The good times of sports, but the other times you would find yourself in all sorts of adventures that could potentially get you in trouble. Maybe a bruise here and there, maybe a couple wounds, who knows? But in my family, it has always been like that. We've been, people of the earth, I would say.
Well, you also attended St. Anthony's College with Carlos Edwards. Were you good
Yeah.
mates? Were you good mates in school?
Yeah, we were. Well, Carlos is obviously a bit older than I was. When we were at school together, he was a part of the team that brought us our first championship, historically. So me being younger than him, they were he and amongst others were the players that we used to look up to. So in school he was sort of a hero, and then he moved on to playing for the national team, and I was on the national youth teams and all of that. But time passed and I advanced pretty quickly, so I started joining him in the senior team ranks.
Mhm.
And from them on, obviously being countrymen and having the same background as in going to the same school, um, it kind of helped us to have a seamless transition into friendship, real friendship more or less.
Mhm.
And we've been friends for quite a long time.
Mhm.
Did you ever sit and sort of ponder that you'd both end up playing in England, let alone for the same team?
To be honest with you, I did not started taking football seriously till I was maybe 14, going on 15. Before that, I was pretty good in cricket, football, obviously basketball, that type of stuff. I originally wanted to be an athlete. That was my number one sport. But things happened quite quickly for me. Getting to 14, 15, and then being scouted to join the national youth setup, and from then on it just sort of spiraled out of control, more or less. I advanced pretty quickly. Google information is a little bit not 100% true. I did actually make my debut when I was 17 years old for the senior team, senior national team. The bit about the Joe Public in there, that I signed for them, but I never played for them. The contract and all of that wasn't valid. Um, And after being fast tracked sort of in what I would think is destiny for myself. I started moving up the ranks and going to trials, over Europe, um, and basically ended up where I ended up to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Kenwyne, that was one of the things I was going to ask you, because I'm a big cricket fan. I was going to ask if you played cricket growing up, and obviously you just mentioned that you did. What were you? Were you a batter? Were you a bowler? All rounder? What was your cricket game?
All rounder is the way to go. Most kids, I think you learn cricket that way because in your communities, when you have to be involved in the social environment, whatever is on for that week or for that day, in order to be a part of it, you have to be good, by the standards that are set, amongst your peers. So at cricket, you want to be able to have an impact in the game. Yes, you would bat, score some runs, but you'd also bowl, score some run, take some wickets. You would also be a good fielder, that type of stuff. So you get a sort of an all round um, knowledge and about the game in itself. And for us, even at that level, in your community, it was really competitive because within the community, we would have, um, you know, streets against each other. Um, where I grew up, the way they categorize the community, we would go phase against phase, whether it be phase one against phase two, which would sort of make it like you would have an all-star team from phase one, phase two going against each other. And over our vacation in uh, July, August time from school, that is all we used to do. Every week, it was a different activity, more or less. So, cricket, then you'd have the athletics, then you'll have basketball, you'll have football, you'll even have some netball going on because we'll mix with the girls. Um, we'll have something, a game sort of like dodgeball as well. So whatever we could find to entertain ourselves and keep us together, always competing, we would do so. Over an 8-week period, more or less, we were always busy. Our parents was glad that, that vacation time would come because, you'd leave home at first light and never see your house till, the sun's almost gone. So within that, I would say that is what kind of, gave me the competitive edge in life, more or less. That's where it was nurtured from.
Was there any other consideration that you'd try and go pro at cricket rather than football?
Not really. I wasn't even, besides athletics, maybe I wasn't really thinking about going pro anyway. Cricket, I could play it very well, but I wasn't thinking, oh, I want to be a cricketer. While I was young and at school, I always wanted to be like a physiotherapist. So that coupled with, doing athletics was just my main goal. It wasn't to become, a pro, was just basically loving it that much and seeing where it would take me.
So going back to sort of the beginning of your football journey,
Mm-hmm.
when you're kicking the ball out there with your mates, where did you kind of draw your inspiration from? Was there, a player that you particularly admired where you sort of tried to emulate them?
For sure. Because when you play in sports, obviously you're going to have the knowledge of it, knowledge of players and teams and that type of stuff. So even at a young age, between ourselves, we would have discussions of players and tactics and that type of stuff. So when I was young, I had my own inspiration from my uncle and my dad. My uncle played for the national team, and he was part of a big moment. Even though we didn't cross the hurdle, he was really part of a big moment, and that was like my first celebrity or superhero. Apart from that, I grew up on watching Italian football from a very young age, so I've been a AC Milan supporter literally all my life. So those are the things that kind of kept our interest. discussing players, new players, games, that type of stuff. So with that, but still for myself, I was never out, playing thinking, well, I'm Perlo or Leonardo or whoever. I always thought of being myself, even though I used to look at these people. I was brought up to be an individual and to make the best of yourself, more or less. You can never be like someone else. So, I just more or less roll along with that mentality, that upbringing, and I think it's served me well in life so far.
I would say so. I think that's where I've been going wrong, because I've always fancied myself as a little Marco Gabbiadini, jumpers for goalposts and stuff. That's exactly what we did. So again, if I changed my mentality, maybe I could have done something differently. I don't know.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, for some people, it works that you try to follow after someone or try and pick up their attributes, but at the same time, for me personally, I was always the salmon swimming upstream. Everyone would want to go left, I would go right. I move on my own time. I go against decisions, not in a rebellious manner, but just as a part of always maintaining my own identity. So
That's cool.
For some people, I'm not saying that you can't, follow or take inspiration from people, but I just like being me. There's only one me, so I'm happy with that.
It's all good. That's all good, man. So when you came over to the UK, I understand you had trials with like Man United, Middlesbrough, West Ham. You had trials with Rangers before you joined Southampton. So what was your driving force behind you applying your trade in Europe?
Well, the thing is, I went to Glasgow Rangers a few times early on, and having experience in getting through there. Then, like I said, for me, my destiny was sort of fast tracked. So maybe twice a year, every year, I'd probably go to somewhere else. And then I went on this 3-month trial binge, I would say, in 2004, where early 2004, where I went to West Ham, Rangers again, West Ham, Reading, Southampton. And after Southampton, I was supposed to go to Tottenham after, but I was 18 going on 19. I was tired. I had a few struggles along the way where, everywhere I went, they wanted to sign me, but I seemed to, well, not me personally, but the situation seemed to run into some trouble with, people back home, owners of clubs and all of that, because at that point in time, they're seeing dollar signs, It's the progression of a player is taking more of a back step rather than, they line in their pockets. So I run into some snags with those clubs. I'm happy that I went through that, because along the way I got to meet a lot of players that became my friends for such a long period of time till this day. It's on those journeys that I've met them. So in the end, I'm happy with how it turned out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so when you moved over to England, what was the first thing that you missed, or what was the thing that you missed most?
At that age, I missed absolutely nothing. I looked at football as a life experience. I was never afraid to take the chance, because coming up through the youth national setup and then the senior team setup, I've been, probably 3/4 around the world already. So I've been home for, at that time I was saying like 18 years up until that time. And there's nothing to miss. There's nothing that is going to go away. It's not going to change, so I want to be away from it for a while and experience life there, because there's no telling how long you're going to be on the earth for. I was very thankful for the opportunity, so I just wanted to make the best of it.
Makes sense.
Goodness, I've been here almost 13 years and I still miss a good curry and a proper fry up.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I mean, you missed that, but I think, and it also changed like that for me. When I started getting older, you know, that is when I started to miss, um, certain pleasures. Being able to do what I do now, like I'm under a tree in the northeast of Island. The sea is just over
Mhm.
to my right. Just being able to relax and not having to bustle around anywhere, is
Mhm.
something that I miss because you don't have that opportunity to live, culturally how you would in another
Mhm.
country.
Yeah.
So when I got older, those are some of the things that I started missing, and that for me is was the signal to knowing when it's you're coming closer to time to stopping and going back home.
Mhm.
So Ken, when you make your name in English football at Southampton,
Hmm.
you had two very successful loan spells with Sheffield Wednesday and Stoke City,
Hmm.
and that also elevated your profile to the extent that Derby County came knocking on the door. Obviously, that eventually meant that you'd leave Southampton on a little bit of a sour note. So, what happened regarding that situation? How did the
Well,
Sunderland move?
leaving Southampton on a sour note had nothing to do with me really. As we've seen in the more I don't want to disrespect you guys, but the higher echelons of media, um, where they constantly make stories, they have to make narratives for someone to look good.
Mhm.
Most of the times, in these situations, clubs and club owners, right? I was 21 years old. I'm not from England. I have no clue what it is to hand in a transfer request and all those other optics that goes along with the club, right? And Sunderland came in.
Mhm.
The club, Southampton itself, was a selling club at the time. They were selling all their youngsters, to help. I don't know, maybe the finances of the club or
Mhm.
specific people themselves. And the bid came in, and they didn't have any issues with selling me. To be honest,
Mhm.
I actually had guidelines from certain directors on what to do to be able to get out. Right. At that time, I didn't even really write a proper transfer request. To be honest with you, um, the biggest thing for them was that they didn't want to have to pay me any money to leave the club if they accepted the bid.
Mhm.
So I was like, well, I don't care. At this point in time, I come from where I've come from, and I have the opportunity now to play in the Premier League. It's not something that I ever dreamt about, but it's something that came about. And I was like, I want to go experience that. It had nothing to do with so much with me having countrymen at the club. It was
Mhm.
just mostly about the footballing experience for me. So when it came about, I got my directions from directors at Southampton, and I put my transfer request in, and
Mhm.
I was able to leave. Obviously, after that, the narrative was, I put a transfer request in. I wanted to leave the club that gave you so much, and which I think is a whole lot of nonsense
Mhm.
because in the business of football, I think things go in and out so much. Situations today change. Today they love you, tomorrow they don't.
Mhm.
Today you're good for them, tomorrow there's a better piece of business out there. Because when you really look at it, there are a few players that are really, you know, bedtime stories for clubs. The rest of the players and things surrounding the clubs are pawns, chess pieces.
Mhm.
So if
Mhm.
there's a better piece of business to happen, the club will do it. They have no problem, and then put the
Yeah.
spin doctor out that it was time to go and la di da. And obviously it's like a soap opera, so the fans buy into that,
Yeah.
and they have their feelings either which way about how things went and what they think you should do and how contrite you should be and how much in service you should be of a club and whatnot. But it's fairly one-sided because they never get angry at the club for selling someone that they view highly.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
I've seen, you have stories in the media about players, throwing down the the gauntlet and don't want to play for the club anymore and don't want to train here to go there, and the club and the fans make them out to be so horrible.
Hmm.
But then I've been in situations where I've seen clubs do everything to frustrate a player
Hmm.
so that he would come in and ask to leave because they want him to go.
Yeah.
I've seen them humiliate players to extents that are not is not supposed to be humanly possible just to make them leave a club.
Yeah.
But then no one is talking about that because the end the player is meant to look bad. He is held to a standard that no one else can reach. So the clubs can make him feel and portray him to be a bad person however they want, so that they remain with the good optics for the club. The fans can do that, but as much as the fans do that, they absolutely know nothing that goes on behind closed doors.
No,
So they're just
Okay.
yeah, that's fair.
they're, yeah, no, that they're
Yeah.
just there reacting off a situation. What they're being told is it's like a brainwashing situation, So it has to have some sort of balance. But I guess that's how it's been set up for quite a long time, and we have to live with it.
Hmm. We all know that obviously the English media is brutal anyway at the best of times, so they're always looking for a story. So
I,
it's
I don't want to say I'd say brutal, yes, but biased as well.
mhm.
The reporting has no equality in it. But like I said, it's been like that for quite a long time. So we're
Yeah.
gonna have to try to change it somehow, or
Mhm.
even the playing field.
Yeah. On a more positive note, obviously we mentioned there that you'd left Sunderland, and we were the benefactors of that situation as well. So when you signed for Sunderland, you'd make your debut against Manchester United at Old Trafford. There was 75,500 people in there. What memories do you have of that day?
I was just excited, youthful exuberance. The crowd didn't scare me. I've like I said, I've been part of you know uh, a journey where I was exposed to crowds like that all over the world.
Hmm.
So when it came to that, it didn't phase me at all. I was happy to be a part of it, to enjoy it.
Hmm.
Obviously, for Sunderland and playing at Old Trafford is a big thing.
Hmm.
For myself, being able to play on iconic grounds such as those, um, I'm happy. I'm very happy, and I'm blessed to say that I had the opportunity to quite a few times, and also score in these
Yes.
stadiums. So that's something that for me, my memorabilia is never on paper or in pictures. It's just the experience that I've lived through.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that happened. I'm happy.
Brilliant.
And it was only 2 weeks later that you'd make your home debut for the Black Cats at the Stadium of Light. You'd been there a year prior with Southampton, also wearing
Mhm.
red and white. So how did it feel to walk down the tunnel as a Sunderland player?
It is. It is. Most of the time when I reflect on moments in my career, I look at all these situations and see how, for me, how life is linked. Even with the people that I met early on in life and ended up either working with or being friends with, and at some point in time in my career. So it was amazing. That time I came with Southampton to play against Sunderland was first time being in the Northeast and playing in the Stadium of Light. I mean, the when we played them, it's not to say that the stadium was packed, but playing in such a newish stadium at that point in time, the way it was set up, I was excited, really. And then turning around to come and play for Sunderland, a place that I got a snippet of, in the league before that. It was amazing. Like I said, it was footballing experience for me. I was happy to be a part of it. Something that I'll be able to sit with my kids and tell them about afterwards. Being able to be in different countries and playing different stadiums and have different experiences, I'll be able to share that with them.
That's brilliant. A couple of goal-related questions now, Kenwyne, if I may. The first actually comes from one of the people viewing, from Ben Devine, and he asked, what goal was it that you scored that gave you the most pleasure in your career?
Absolutely all of them. And I know that that is not the answer you want to hear, but to be honest, every time you score a goal or you have a moment is something to be written down in the history of your life. So I looked at every goal as defining moments, because in every game that you play, the goal would actually mean something. It's either to go on top, to level, to win a game, to kickstart a comeback. So that is how I think I keep those moments alive. That I've valued every single moment and every goal that I had in that type of way. Now I can be wrong. Maybe you were looking for some sort of fairy tale answer, but that is just how I view it. I'm sorry. Um, what else can I say?
No, fair play, mate. But on that note, can you talk us through what your home debut goal was like against Reading? That first goal at the Stadium of Light.
I think it was relief more than anything else. Yes, I was happy to score the goal, but I was happy for being able to give a good account of myself, because not only did I score, but I had an assist that helped us win the game, and I was happy to start off that journey, at Sunderland in that manner, that I was able to score and help us win. And then also, it's like your first day of school type of thing, type of feeling. You're playing at the Stadium of Light, first time in front of your home fans. You want to be able to get off on a good foot. And thankfully I was able to do that, and we won the game. But again, that sort of marked my journey in the Premier League, the beginning of it rather. Obviously, yes, making the debut at Old Trafford, but then at home, for a team that has just come up, you want to be able to get off to a good start. So I was happy that happened. And then, of course, again, like I say, goals and games and results, help you to sort of start the molding of that intertwining of your team. So for me, all of those, most of those were new teammates for myself. So being able to score, and then it helps you to sink into the team, because I sort of look at football teams a little bit differently. I look at it as a family. I try to make it my job to have everyone connected and sort of like on the same plane, because at the end of the day, the way that I've learned the rudiments of football is that it's the team against the world. Even in your moments, it's even in your own stadium, it's the team against the world, because sometimes you're out there doing everything that you possibly could, and your fans are upset or on the wrong side of things. So when you go into that team environment, you want to be able to count on everyone that you have out there through the good moments, the indifferent moments, and the bad moments as well.
Well, I'm going to ask you a little bit about some of the managers you've played for, and I've got quite a list here, so bear with me. And this is again really for the folks back home. I might have something wrong now based on Joe Public as well, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. So Stuart Charles, Fevrier, Leroy Span, LaForest.
Well, so Stuart Charles, very good teacher. He taught. He did teach me a lot about the fundamentals of football and tactics. The rest I'm not gonna comment on.
Well, let's mention the stuff that you've done. Apparently, I've got for national level as well. Steve Wigley, Sinclair. You played for Redknapp.
Oh, what's this now? No, Steve. Steve was absolutely amazing. He was an amazing coach and amazing guy. I have a lot of time for Steve. He was one of the coaches that I basically got introduced to, in the first team of Southampton at the time. But he was amazing. Harry Redknapp is an idiot.
It's funny you should say that because Gav just mentioned before about Redknapp. We're watching the Spurs game, and he said Harry Redknapp. I says I absolutely hate him. I can't stand him. So I'm pleased that you said he's an idiot.
But and that's the thing, right? He's an idiot. But again, when you're in the media and they make stories about certain people and give them sort of that passageway into greatness for no reason, it doesn't make sense. And I've had my experiences with him. I'm not saying that he's probably not a good person outside of football or whatever the case is, but he's an idiot. And I think like when I was at Southampton and when he was there, we had a couple of run-ins. When we made it to the World Cup, he was trying to basically stifle youngsters. Not only myself, you had the Gareth Bale, the Walcotts, the Nathan Dyers, those type of players. And, I had a falling out with him. And then since that time, we never spoke until it came around to, I think, 2009, 2010, 2009. He wanted me to come to Tottenham, and, he did everything outside of the legal parameters to get to speak to me. I spoke to him. He started apologizing. But for quite a long time, he's maintained a narrative, even put it in his book, some stuff about me being lazy and didn't want to run, which, again, I will bring back to the point that me and him had a falling out when, for my national team, we made it to the World Cup. Yeah. We qualified in, let's say, 2005. I was 20 years old at the time when I came back from, because obviously that's a historic moment for the country.
Yeah.
It's the first time in our history. And when I came back from that trip, to the captain, to everyone on the training ground, it was like, congratulations, because obviously they know what it meant. And he never said a word. He decided to try and have a go at me in every single thing. And then, we had a moment where it was a standoff, and I was like, I'm not gonna take this type of pressure from you, because again, the way I was raised, not even my parents would speak to me like that. I've never disrespected anyone, and for you to be talking to me and dealing with me in that manner, I did not accept it whatsoever. So me and him had a falling out. He tried to tell me with my attitude, I would never get any higher than Torquay United, and I had to, disrespect what I would call disrespect him. I had to swear back at him and say, listen, you're not Alex Ferguson. And it's not something that I've ever grew up on as a value, as disrespecting someone that is older than me or senior to me in any way. And from then on, it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth about him. And I think a week after, or 2 weeks after, he was jumping the back fence at the training ground to go back to Portsmouth. So that in itself just shows you the character of the man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then later on, he put that story in his book, and I'm saying, like, but okay, you put that story there not actually knowing the clause, because I purposely, dropped out of fell short in a beep test at an early stage, just not to do it, just because we were going back and forth at that time.
Yeah.
And then when the book came out with the story, people run with the story all over the world, even at home here. And I was like, y'all don't even know, but I'm saying these are what they do to put, to sell stories out there, sell their books. But at the same time, for me, you weren't putting in your book that you were trying to get everyone to call me so you could talk to me to get me to come to Spurs at the time. You called me and apologized for your behavior. You're not going to put that out there in the book. If you want to sell stories, sell the entire story. Don't sell part of it to make yourself look good. But they do what they do. They get the
Yeah.
headlines. They become the darlings of the media, and nothing they could do could ever be wrong. And I mean, within the fraternity of football, they've done a whole lot of wrong, but they just never got caught.
Yeah.
That's it. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. Like
Yeah,
I
no, I
said,
get it.
it's always the players that end up on the shitty end of the stick.
Yeah. Again, you obviously played for some other managers while you're in the UK as well. I've got Dave Bassett, George Burley. You were obviously at Sheffield Wednesday, like I mentioned, with Chris Turner, Tony
Dave,
Pulis, Roy Keane.
Dave was a character. He was a character. It was funny. He was funny, but it was nice though. But he was a character.
So-
Chris Turner was really good. Who else was there? George Burley.
Yeah, George Burley, yeah.
God bless him. I mean, every Friday he used to be pissed. He could even do the Friday media before we play on Saturday. He used to, when I mean totally pissed, he used to try and come out and train with us on a Friday. And obviously his words will be, fumbling on himself. But also when he tried kick the ball, he'd fall over. Training on a Friday never used to be that long. It used to be probably like 35, 40 minutes.
Oh, good Lord.
It was funny. It was some good times though.
Yeah.
I mean, those were funny moments. I'm not speaking ill of him. Those were funny moments. But I have a lot of time for George Burley. He was fantastic. Obviously he's a very, very, very nice character as well. I think in management sometimes it's a little bit tough when you don't have that ruthless character. You get run over a bit a lot of times, and management don't really work out for you, especially when you're in a place like England where you're under immense pressure.
So some of the three managers you played for at Sunderland, obviously Roy Keane, Ricky Sprazier, who took over after Keane left, and then Mrs. Doubtfire, Steve Bruce. Who was the best manager that you'd played for? I think during your career, I guess.
Roy Keane.
Roy Keane. Why was that? What set him aside from anyone else?
I would say that Roy Keane has truth about him in a raw sense that people don't quite understand. People want to be petted all the time, and a lot of times as well they take things personally. A lot of the guys, they couldn't deal with his abrasiveness at times. But I always believe that if he had more experience, assistant managers and coaches around him, he would have done pretty well for himself, especially at Sunderland. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But he was brilliant. I never used to take Roy Keane seriously in terms of the things that he would say. Between me and him, there was always some banter. I remember one time, after I came off the injury list with that knee injury, and we were away at Blackburn, cold night away at Blackburn. And come halftime, we were down 1-0, right? And he came into the dressing room, he started hammering people. And then he comes to me and he was like, Kenwyne, yeah, that's why Harry Redknapp say he'd never touch you and all of this and that. And I'm there. But I'm not taking it personal because I understand what he's doing in the room. He's trying to G everyone up so they'll go out and have a reaction, right? So obviously we go back out for the second half. I scored. We win the game 2-1. After the game, we're back in the dressing room. He's coming. He's go, all right, lads, well done. Good comeback. I know you had it in you. And then he was sitting in the corner while everyone was changing. And he was just looking at me and giving me the cheekiest smile ever. And I was smiling back because he knows that I didn't take what he said personally. And I know what he was trying to do. But again, a lot of players were very sensitive. They couldn't deal with things being said and, the lengths he might go to say some things. But I always thought to me, it was fun. To me, it was really funny because I would remember that a lot of, between the Trini boys, myself, Dwight, Carlos, we would replay these moments of team talks we would have and seriously piss ourselves laughing, in the manner in which some of the things he said, to the level, that he said some stuff to people. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Class.
But like I said, to me, he was the best manager
Mhm.
that I played for at Sunderland, but he was not a manager. Like I said, you need something a bit ruthless to be a manager in those situations, and
Mhm.
his character was way too soft and too nice.
Yeah.
So it didn't really work out for him. And Steve Bruce is what he is. He's one of the darlings of England for some reason, but he's an idiot. I would say it hands down. He's an idiot.
Hmm.
I'd agree with you, Kenwyne. Obviously,
No, I have no remorse in saying it. I don't make any apologies. At one point in time, during that time, his time at Sunderland, while I was there, I literally wanted a moment to come where we would fight.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
because it's not to say that we would be having back and forth with him all the time, or at any point in time, but I disliked him so much
Yeah.
because to me, he destroyed the team at Sunderland.
Mhm.
Any manager that comes in has to have a sort of finesse where they be able to build a team, build a dressing room.
Hmm.
He brought in players, and right away he separated the squad into my players and the players that were here before.
Hmm.
So the team itself never had any proper harmony because from the top of the ladder we were being separated,
Hmm.
and he drove a lot of players away. Me and him, by the time the January came around, I was already ready to leave. I was
Yeah.
set to leave, to be honest. I was gonna go to Liverpool.
Hmm.
Everything been agreed. And one day on the training ground, me and him fell out, and he basically that is how I ended up at Stoke during the summer. But that same summer, he sold Jordan Henderson to Liverpool.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I'm not begrudging, Jordan. Anyway, he's younger than I am. I had a lot of time for him. He's a good lad, but
Mhm.
why stop me from having my opportunity? To go on and do something,
Yeah.
for
No,
myself.
absolutely.
At the end of the day, he would have said things that you're not good, you're this, that, and that, the other. But okay, if I'm not good, and at the point in time, 16 million was a lot of money
Hmm.
at that
Yeah.
time. Liverpool come in, everything's been agreed. If you didn't want me here because I was sort of one of the remnants of the past players or past managers players,
Hmm.
well, all right, let me go.
Yeah.
In that season, I mean, I did form a very good partnership with Darren.
Yeah.
Um, had a lot of assists for him. Um, it was a good partnership, but at the
Yeah. It
same
was.
time, if as a manager you don't want a player there, the opportunity came for it to happen,
Yeah.
in the right way.
Hmm.
You know, to be honest, at the end of that season, before I made the move to Stoke, I think I was contemplating not playing football anymore. I mean, apart from the things that was going on at the club, and that I was going through a little rough patch at home as well. And at the end of that season, I was like, you know what? I think I rather stop playing football and going back to play for Steve Bruce,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
And then
Makes
when I
sense.
went back, after the probably like the first month of preseason or something, I think he made the Stoke deal happen. And at that point, I was happy to leave. But in the end, 6 months prior, I could have left.
Yeah.
I could have gone to Liverpool and
Yeah.
done some great things. I could have been in Istanbul. Who knows?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? But that's how it happens.
It is bad form that again. I mean, you deal with that, and I guess the same sort of situation, but in general day-to-day work, you know, when you have managers who are reluctant to let you to move on or to develop, it's a similar situation. So it's shit that happened, because obviously, I mean, who knows what could have happened? You could have kicked on, and we all know what Liverpool have been capable of since then as well. I mean, they've obviously turned stuff around there. So it's a damn shame that people like that exist, rather than, you know,
No,
letting
but
people develop.
they exist everywhere, because
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
end of the day, I think me as a person, I rather honesty, you know, than the charade of everything else, the attitudes and the, you know, the victimization and that type of stuff. If you don't want me to be at the club, if you want me to be a bit part player, if you want me to just be a squad member, if you want me as part of your plans, or if you don't want me at all, I rather you say that to me up front than, you know, you string me along, because at the end of the day, you're gonna butt heads with people.
Yeah.
And I think the reason you're gonna butt heads is because managers tend to not be truthful, you know, around surrounding a situation. Because, like I said earlier on, it's all about business. Football is all about business. It's business first. The love, the passion, and all of that, that's for the fans. Football is all about business. And if the opportunity comes for you to get rid of a player, but you're not sure if you're gonna get someone back in, that's where they hold on to people. At least, you know, be able to say, well, this is a situation, and I can't let you leave till I know I have somebody coming in. Okay, a human being can work with that.
Yeah.
But they tend to do this merry-go-round that ends up creating a very uneasy and hazardous environment in the club. The managers that are able to do that well, I think, are the ones that are successful.
Yeah.
I mean, beside those who go to all the clubs with all the money and buy, you know, the better talented players and win championships and call themselves great, which is absolute nonsense.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Well, there are a few. I mean, I'm not gonna discredit their work, but at the same time, to me, if you call yourself a great manager, I want to see you take yourself to a League Two team and bring them up through the ranks and establish them in the top league. That is great for me.
Yeah.
You cannot go somewhere that you'll have all the privilege of the money, the access to get some of the best players in the world, and then call yourself great after that, because the players more or less do the work themselves.
So what you just saying there, Kenwyne, makes me think of someone like Eddie Howe. And I know you played for Eddie as well, right?
Yeah, you have to give a lot of respect to Eddie Howe,
Yeah.
because he's stuck with Bournemouth, brought them through League Two, League One, Championship, then established them in the Premier League for some time. Unfortunately, I think things got a little bit stale for him, because players at that time probably, you know, has outgrown him. Eddie Howe is a young man. He's a young manager, and from the players that he's brought into the club, you can see he was managing egos as well. You know, so you, along with the size of the club and all of that, all of those take into account. But from a personal perspective, him as a manager, he was managing egos. You'd never see him going after, just for instance, a Tevez or Balotelli, because it is more important as a young manager like him to maintain control and have people buying into your ideas, rather than you have players who are vastly experienced and might have some opposition to you. So you've seen he's had, you know, a bit of problems with his goalkeepers, older players, and that type of stuff, who's been experienced and have been around clubs. You know, he's had a little bit of problems with them where he had to either not play them or get them out. Right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
He's been doing that for a while, but now it's come to the time where, to test his mettle, he has to go into a different environment and expose himself to a different level. And when I say different level, a different maturation level of players, and maybe bigger egos at the same time, so that he can test himself as a manager. I have no doubt that he is a fantastic manager, coach, all of that, but he just has to take himself up another level, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
To be able to deal with that type of pressure and people, and maybe he's done the job long enough at the level or at the size of club that he's done for so much time. But now it's good for him to be able to go into Everton or something like that, you know, a top 10 club or a top 6 club, and see what he can do at that level.
That sounds good. Right, Gav?
If we can go back to Keno for a minute, as Ross Wallace will attest, he was famously not overly keen of exuberant celebrations, and so did he give you a telling off every time you did your backflip, or was it just most time?
Like I say, he never did. Absolutely never did. Never did. I never had that experience with him. I was never once told, "Oh, don't do that celebration." At the end of the day, you see, this is what I'm saying. Like I think people receive stuff differently, and you know, based on any situation, depending on your character, if someone is not there to pet you, you're gonna have a problem. If they're not feeding into your ego at the point in time, you're gonna have a problem. So a lot of things that he was doing and probably saying, you know, it affected a lot of people, and I can't say that, you know, they're wrong for feeling that way, but it is what it is. You have different experiences with different people. Might have people out there might tell you Steve Bruce has been a great manager for them. You know, that is not my experience, and at this point in time, you have to give me my experience, and I think they're idiots. So, you know, whatever someone else's experience with a manager is, you know, that's for them to say and to feel. You know,
that's fair.
I had a wonderful. I have massive respect for him. Like I say, I think if he had more experienced coaches around him and assistant managers, you know, he would have done really, really well in management. But then also, I think as a person, that's why he probably went in and out, is because he doesn't have the time to give his sanity. What's left of it, you know, to the sport itself, because that sport and everything that surrounds it is a circus.
Yeah.
If you look at the sport on the whole, a lot of people, when they finish or forced to finish, they sometimes end up, you know, with mental illness, addictions, gambling addictions, alcoholic addictions. Some people, they can find themselves after. You know, that's why I think there are a lot of people try to find themselves in and around football as soon as they finish, or even before they finish.
That makes sense.
They need to be around it. You know, I to be honest with you, the only time I really started watching football was during the restart, since I've been retired.
Yeah.
I honestly don't have any need to watch it, to be honest. And it might seem wrong, you know, people are gonna say, "Oh, well, football has given so much to you," and that I can respect, but I've also given a lot to football. You know what I mean? So I think it's a little bit of a balance, because I'm not being ungrateful, but I could have been off doing something else rather than playing football.
Cameron, I want to just stop you there for 1 second. We're having a few sound issues. It actually sounds like you're talking through a tin can. Is what it sounds like this end. So,
like I said, I'm in the outdoors.
Can I do you a favor? Can I just kick you out for a second? And can you just click the link again to come back in just to see, rectify the sound?
Kick me out how much you want.
I'll just drop. If you don't mind, just clicking back on the link again. I said just 1 second there.
All right.
Thanks. Sorry about that for you guys who are watching at home. I know it's we just wanted to make sure that you guys had a better experience with the sound. It was, as I said, it sounded like he was talking through a tin can. Those of you that are old enough to remember those days with a bit of string, that's maybe. Anyway, I'm just going to waffle on until he comes back on, which is obviously what I'm good at. So, Gav, how's it going so far? You're not too nervous on your first edition? I think you're doing a grand job, mate.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate that. No, it's brilliant. I love his honesty. Certainly enjoy him calling Bruce and Redknapp out as idiots because, it's always been my perception of the pair of them as well. And I also love the fact that he loves Keno because Keno, for me, was probably the finest Sunderland manager we've had in the last 20 years.
He was phenomenal, definitely. I'm just hoping that Kenwyne does actually get back on and doesn't find himself on the beach because I know he was going out with his family today. So I apologize to people back home. The sound wasn't coming through so well. We could make out what he was saying, but it wasn't too good. And just to let people know, obviously, some of the questions, Sean Swan, I've got your question here, Sean. We're going to ask him if he's still doing backflips. Obviously, we'll add that in there. We've got a few other questions to ask him about, specifically who were the best players he played with while he was at Sunderland, obviously, and in his career, who his favourite strike partner was, and stuff like that. So, and then I think we've already asked Ben's question. I have a quiz question, which is for later on anyway. Whoever wins or whoever gives you the right answer, you can send it through to Sons of Liberty SAFC@gmail.com. Sons of Liberty @SAFC@gmail.com. And the question would be, and when we get to that level, the question would be, who of all the goals that Kenwyne scored, who was the team that he scored the most against? And Kenwyne's not allowed to answer that question, even though he's just come back on here. He's not allowed to answer. And I'm not even sure if he knows.
Derek, I probably can't even remember.
Oh, that's all right then. That's okay because it's a quiz question. We're just kind of waffling on while we're getting you back on there. But,
I don't know. To be honest, I think I know who it is.
Okay, well, don't mention it because whoever wins, the prize is one of these awesome Sol scarves. Basically, is what we'll send you. So anyway,
whoever it is, message me privately. I'll tell you. I want you to win.
Cheers, Kenwyne. Thanks a lot, mate. Sorry. Hey, Kenwyne, I've just got one more question about the backflips, and this comes from Sean Swan, and he asked, "Can you still do them? And is it something you still do frequently?"
I don't really do it anymore. One of the issues of my retirement is I've had a degenerative knee, so I decided to leave the game while I could still walk.
Okay.
But I can still do it. That is something that never leaves. I actually got that celebration from my uncle, and I think it's only because 3-4 years ago he had a knee replacement. That's why he stopped, and he's probably like 57, 58. He still does it.
And did you teach Cisse that celebration, or was that something that you used to sort of have a competition on the training ground as to who could do it best?
No. I think for him that was a very impulsive action because, like I say, up to this day, I'm fortunate to still be friends with a lot of people that I've played with. So for him, a lot of interest we shared was very mutual. So I think it was impulsive for him at that time to do it.
I think he was shite at it.
It takes a bit of work, I've been doing that since I was like 7 years old, just in the street, really and truthfully. Wow. So him being impulsive at that point in time, of course, is gonna look a little bit,
not as good
off the points, but it's something that takes practice.
The most worrying part, I think, from a fan's perspective, was obviously that he had broken both of his legs previously.
That was an issue. That was an issue.
Oh my God!
At the same time, I don't think he was really thinking about that in that moment. Again,
I get it.
Why are you playing in your playing years? You're gonna be a little bit invincible, regardless to what happens to you, until you can't do it anymore. I think
this is actually. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I think a lot of people. I think that is what kind of drives them up a wall that they know they used to do. A lot of stuff while they were playing, and then now they have to stop because their body they can't do it anymore, and they just have to. It's sad.
There's a lad who often comes on here, Derek McLaughlin. We're actually he's online the other week, and he's still playing football now, and he's 58, and he's still enjoying it.
No! You can still play. It's just I think the intensity level is much different for you.
Oh, absolutely. Not for him.
Well, for
He's
him,
the
I mean, to be honest with you, I've probably played football. I don't know, maybe twice since I've retired.
yeah.
A couple of charity games, but apart from that, I have no. I rather play golf.
Oh, good lord. So this is actually quite a good segue anyway. So you're with the club for 3 seasons, and you've obviously lined up along some absolutely quality players. And I've put on here, and this is something I do every week. I said they're obviously considered legends to this day. These include, but are not limited to, and these are some of my favourite players: Bardsley, Edwards, Richardson, York, Cisse, Henderson, Malbranc, Bent, Catamol, Mensah, and Zenden. Who was the best Sunderland player you played alongside, and why?
I think it's gonna have to be Dwight.
Mhm.
Because I don't think he should be in consideration for me because obviously I'd give him the pass.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of him, I think it's gonna have to be Steve Malbranc.
Yeah.
He was quiet. He was about his business. He is a very intelligent player. Very skillful player as well. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand that in order for a team to be successful, every section of it has to be, on a certain level, or things have to align in that manner. And I mean, I don't know what it is that Sunderland as a football club needs to get right in order for it to be moving in the right direction. But there's always a factor, something not right, someone not running the club properly, appointment. But it is a beautiful club. It's a beautiful place to play. I think I love that stadium so much, to be honest. But
would you ever go back and consider like managing or anything like that? No.
Derek,
Sorry, was that the most stupid question you've ever had there?
Derek,
It certainly
again,
looked like it.
Like I said, I'm on the good side where my signal as well. If I was to show you what is at the other side of this house here,
Yeah.
this house, if I was to show you what's on the other side of this house, you would understand why I would never think about coming back to England and doing management.
Not even to the Costa del Roca. You've got to be kidding me, man.
Absolutely not.
Fair enough. All right, then.
So let's expand that question if we can, Kenwyne, to any of the players that you played alongside. So obviously people like Lee Hendry, Luke Chadwick, Rory Delap, Graham Lasso, Kevin Phillips, Peter Crouch, Henry Kamara, Jamie Redknapp, obviously Gareth Bale. Who was the overall best player you played alongside, and why do you think that was?
Oh, well, to be honest, I mean, I've played with a lot of experienced people, but I would have to give it to Gareth because, I mean, at that time at Southampton, right? He was young. You had your Nathan Dyes, you had your Theo Walcotts, Dexter Blackstocks, Leon Best. The thing with Theo is that you knew, yeah, he will end up at a big club, but he was lacking a little bit of sauce, I would say, right? In football terms, he was lacking a little bit of sauce. But the funny thing is that Gareth, had this childlike love for football so much and was so talented. You could have seen him ending up to being one of the best in the world easily. All right. The move from left back to because when he was with us, that's what he used to play, left back. He was not playing left wing or being such of an attacking player. I mean, his left foot was always a wand, always has been a wand. And, for him making that move into the attacking part of the field and doing so well, it's amazing. And, I'm happy to have played with these. I don't go around telling everyone, I play with this one, I play with that one. Yeah. I don't really care about that so much. But in knowing them personally, I'm happy that they've reached their potential. like I say, it's important for every player when they have the opportunity to try and reach that potential, because they are not everyone in the world wants to be a professional footballer.
Mm-hmm.
Very few make it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a specialist job, and you have to give credit to people that make it at, any sort of professional level, because I mean, it's a difficult task, and then you have people coming from all corners of the earth to try and make it into one specific place. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to either be liked by someone, or your talent has to speak for itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. So we talked about Cisse. You mentioned Darren Bent before as well. So who's been your favourite strike partner?
To be honest, I don't have one of those, and why I don't have one of those is because I think I don't have like a selfishness about me. Like I say, I think of my teams as families, and for anyone that is coming into a new team, being part of the outfit, I want to make sure that you do well, because once you do well, everyone else will do well. The team would do well, because in the end, no matter how many plaudits you run away with, if your team loses, your team loses,
Mm-hmm.
because you play for 3 points. There's no good in you saying, "Oh well, I scored 20 goals this season,
Mm-hmm.
but your team got relegated." It
Yeah.
makes no sense.
Yeah.
But so for every team that I played with, and every player that I played with, I try my best to be able to feed off of them and let them feed off of me. How best I could
Mm-hmm.
help them, do well, I would do.
Mm-hmm.
But I regard all of them, though. I'm not saying that anyone was bad, or I like one more than the other. I regard all of them highly. Again, it was just a privilege to be able to play the game and to play with some of these players, because they've gone on to do well for themselves as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with Darren, I think I made it really easy for him.
It was
Really
a
easy.
great partnership. It was a superb partnership. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
it was a great partnership that was forced out of divisiveness, destruction. Like I said, in that year with Steve
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, he was separating the team into his players and players that was there before.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was amazing that that sort of partnership could have come out of that situation.
Yeah. That sounds like the one positive you could take away from that year, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. That's the only positive you could take away. But I'm happy that he was able to be the goal scorer he was all his life, even though he's been negatively portrayed by a lot of people, because
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know, they don't like X, they don't like Y, but at the same time, he's done what he's supposed to do in his footballing career.
Yeah.
But I'm
So I
happy
think
for
that
him. But I have a lot of time for Darren as well, man. He's a
yeah.
good
Well,
guy.
the thing is with Darren as well. Obviously, they would talk about him being at the time a money grabber or whatever. But if you remember, there was the England manager that I think I can't remember which game it was he came to. It might have been the Manchester United game actually when we drew 2-2. And there was rumours after that game that he talked to Darren and said he needed to move to a bigger club to get in the England team. These are all that, again, this was in the tabloids and stuff. And so this has kind of given me somewhat of a segue, because there was a question that's been asked by Stephen Meerman, who's in Atlanta, and he was asking about the spat between Roy Keane and Jack Warner back in the day. Were you
That wasn't that
impacted
wasn't
that?
that was that wasn't a spat.
Okay.
I think it was Roy Keane just speaking some truth and defending me,
Mm-hmm.
because at that point in time I got injured for the national team, and honestly no one cared. No one looked after my interests, even find out how I was doing, how I was coming along.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jack Warner came out in the media and said, he wrote me a letter and la la la, but that was a bunch of lies.
Oh, really?
And I'm gonna blow a little whistle here on your show. The only
Go
reason
on.
Darren Bent was sold from Sunderland is because he had relations with Steve Bruce's daughter. That's the only reason.
Oh,
Not because
Lord.
he's a money grabber.
Okay.
Because there's absolutely no way you can be a top scorer for me, having 24 goals for the season,
Mm-hmm.
and basically my eyeball and then the next season I sell you. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because the more he sucks, the more that player is successful, is the more it looks good on the manager, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason he was sold, not
Wow.
because he's a money grabber. That's absolute nonsense.
Well, that's
Because
how it's.
that was pretty early into his Sunderland career as well, though. So you're gonna have a lengthy contract.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I get it. That's it's good to know. So
There was rumours of something similar happening at Birmingham as well, wasn't there? When Brucey was there, someone said his daughter there too.
come on, you gotta pay attention to them stories. You gotta pay attention to them stories. They have a bit of truth in it.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, Lord. Well, including the international games, you made over 550 plus career appearances, and obviously you've faced many different players. Can you tell me?
I'm on 95 appearances for my country, not 82. That's wrong.
82. Dude, I did all the research, man. This is terrible.
That's Google. They missed a lot.
I feel terrible today. Thank you for correcting me, though. I'll actually update me notes.
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right.
It's all good, man. So over 550 career appearances, and then that gets me out of jail there. So, who was the best opposing player you ever faced?
Whew. Has to be, wow. I mean, Messi and Ronaldo.
Good Lord.
Messi and Ronaldo.
Just to name but a few. Jesus, that's yeah, definitely. We had I think you before Cantona was before your time. He's come up a couple of times.
Oh no, I never faced Cantona. No.
Yeah.
He's way before my time. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I said you're not as old as us. Yeah, whippersnapper. I couldn't believe you're only 35, and that's not being disrespectful. I just think, you've done so much in the game, and you retired. I say you retired all early, really. I mean, you think about it.
It wasn't early for me at all, to be honest.
Good man.
It wasn't early at all.
Good man.
At all. It was the right time.
Just to go back to Degsy's question there, Kenwyne. I mean, I personally never saw any defenders bully you, but were there any players that you used to dread facing because you thought, you'd be in for a hard time when you were up against them?
No. You don't dread. You respect a lot of people. You look forward to facing people when you play games because you're gonna have a tough time. I mean, it was always nice facing Company and David Luiz. I built up relations with David Luiz on a preseason in Portugal one time when he was at Benfica. That day, to be honest, we during early in the game in preseason we lost a defender. Right, all of our other defenders were injured in preseason, unfortunately. So, my first 30 minutes or whatever the case is, or 25 minutes, I was up front and me and him was having battles, going and coming. And then I had to go and play centre back for the rest of the game against Benfica, mind you, and totally busted. And, after that game, that's where we started our battles and relation. I mean, every time I would play against him, when the game is over, both of us, we will always have a smile on our face because it's like, you know what, we definitely worked for our monies today. Because, I mean, it was always rugged, always, tumultuous. It made you enjoy games. It made you enjoy games.
There's a lad we mentioned Sean Swan before. He's mentioned a couple of questions basically surrounding John Terry and I think it was Alex who you basically speaking of boss, you bossed them in those games. Sean wants to know, did John Terry try to tap him up during a game? Now, tap him up can mean one of two things. He's either asking you out on a date or he's trying to get you to come to Chelsea. Which one was it?
During the games, never. I mean, we had conversations during the game, but it was never about coming to Chelsea. At the end of the day, I don't think that he would need to do something like that if the interest is there and the situation is made right, I think moves like that could happen. But during the games, uh, the conversations we had wasn't very flattering, for him really,
Yeah.
because like again, I have the respect of all of these players, and in the game, I think he, when the one game at Stoke, um, I think he was dropped a few times by Mourinho, and he had just
Mhm.
got back into the team, and they came down to play Stoke one day, and I swear I gave him a torrid time, and he was asking me, please go over on the other side, I'm making him look bad.
Yeah.
But again, I have a lot of respect for John. I think
Yeah.
he's been an outstanding player
Hmm.
his entire career. Again, I'm
That's brilliant,
happy.
that man.
I'm happy that I have the respect of my peers in the game. Um, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed
I've,
it.
I've got to say that I mention this every time we interview someone. It really is a pleasure going back and looking through like the history books and actually coming up with like confirmation of what John Terry had said about you and stuff like that, because it does, as a fan, it puts a wry smile on your face thinking, yeah, I mean, you were that good that, to me, one of the best centre halves that England's ever had, basically sung your praise, which was absolutely superb. So I'm gonna jump on now and talk about your most memorable moments, and I've got a few that I'm going to mention before we get to the full question. So, representing your country in the World Cup, Trinidad and Tobago Football Federation's Player of the Year 2007, scoring on your home debut at Stadium.
I was actually 2007, 2008,
Oh, there you go.
2010, 2011.
All right,
But
don't
that's
go,
all right.
don't go on about it, man.
Now
Get on there.
I'm just trying to correct the
I just,
information you
all
have.
right. I didn't want your head to get so big. You know what I mean? I was just saying. You said, but anyway. So obviously beating Newcastle, which is wonderful. Sunderland Player of the Year, FA Cup finalist, UEFA Europa Cup appearances, winning the Football League Championship at Bournemouth, captain the national team, appearances in the AFC and CONCACAF Champions League. All memorable moments for us as supporters. What was your most memorable moment as a Sunderland player to start off with? What's your most memorable moment while being at the club?
My in this order, my away and home debut
Mm-hmm.
is the most important moments, I think. After signing for the club and then playing playing Manchester United away
Mm-hmm.
first time, and then also coming back to play against Reading at home in front of the home fans. Is Those are the two most important and memorable moments for me. There's nothing that could top that for Sunderland. We've gone away. We've had some good days. We've had some bad days. But at the same time, those moments I think stood out for me because the fans have been good to me up there. I have a lot of respect for them, a lot of admiration for the club as well. I mean, the club as a football club, not certain. You always have some bad parts of a club, but I have a lot of respect and a lot of appreciation for Sunderland as a football club for what they have been to the team and especially for me.
Yeah.
Kenwyne, I'm going to piggyback off of this question there. So what was your overall most memorable moment in your career?
Oh, I don't know. I think again in the whole football experience, FA Cup final, semi-final and final. I think honestly, it was just a continuation because the semi-final was my first time ever playing in Wembley, and being able to score in Wembley was absolutely amazing. And then playing the final, obviously, winning the championship with Bournemouth, UEFA League appearances, that was an achievement as well. The World Cup, those are things that are up on the same pedestal in my mind, but the whole football experience, football career and life and is something that I value very highly. Is I value the experience of it. I value the friends and the people I've got to meet along the way and the experiences that I've had. Um, is good. I mean, for people in the media, it's they nitpick at stories and moments and whatever, but the story that I've gone through and the journey that I've gone through as a player, I hold it very dearly because I got to meet a lot of experienced people and become friends with a lot of people who you would call legends of the game. Um, Previously to my career and during my career as well. Uh, I got to meet them and sit with them and become decent acquaintances with some, friends with some. So I value those things more than anything else.
There you go.
You mentioned your home debut and your away debut as being the most memorable moments for Sunderland.
Mm-hmm.
The flip side of that, what was your worst moment at the club, and what was it? One of your performances, or was it just a general sort of experience?
I think one of the worst moments was when we got beat by Everton at Everton. Was that like
7-1.
7-1? That was disgraceful for me because I felt as a team we didn't show up. We didn't know what was going on. Even though I think the team in itself was very imbalanced mentally, because obviously some people can't take what Roy Keane is saying and doing, and there's turbulence to the club and what they want to do, and people weren't happy and that type of stuff. So having that result compound the atmosphere within the club and the team at that time, that was the most hurtful and disappointing thing. I think on another day, I don't think that we'd ever get beat by Everton 7-1 ever. All things being right, but unfortunately, in the story of football, everything has to come together in order for you to be able to give your best performance every time. You can't have discord happening within the team or the club and expect a good result. You can't have discord or unhappy moments off the pitch and expect to have results on the pitch, because football needs such a clear mind and good spirit and good momentum from a person and from a team for all things to go right, or for it to at least be on an equal or level playing field. And at that time, I think things weren't right within the club, and obviously the atmosphere in the team and amongst the fans and all of that, and then that just resulted in people giving up mentally. Because not to say that we weren't trying, but when you're totally switched on and onto something and want to fight for that cause, for some reason you get to the innermost depths of yourself. So you bring out performances and energies and everything else, and that it couldn't come out at that time. I think that we had a period where we were losing games, and it's like people were physically there but not mentally there.
Yeah.
Well, sticking with worst, Kenwyne, what was the worst league that you ever played in, and why was it the MLS?
Wow. Wow. I don't think the MLS is bad at all. Just want to go on record for that. The MLS is a wonderful league. I just think that they are developing their culture of the way they do administration. They have their own culture, but the MLS is a fantastic league that has the potential to grow into a lot. It's only young. It's like 24, 26 years old. So, you can't really, have too many issues with the club. Apart from that, worst league I've played in, none really. Like, my outlook on life will be very different, like football experience. At this point in time, I'm retired. I can't play anymore. I can't play anymore professionally. So, I'm happy to have the experience. There are people who are going to regard, maybe the Chinese league as the worst or whatever league, and no disrespect to them. But at the same time, the football that goes on there is still at a high level, is not being televised, and has the interest in it like maybe in England or France or Spain or whatever the case is. But you're going out there and you're playing football, you're going to find, the real dogs out there.
Mhm.
If you think you're gonna have a cakewalk playing over there, you're absolutely wrong. You're gonna have people that are gonna run you to death,
Yeah.
tackle your head off of you, and scrap for every point and every decent moment they'll have in life.
Yeah.
So you can't say that one league, because I'm pretty sure if everyone's attention switches to a league outside of Europe, that's gonna become the best league in the world easily.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have the influx of players, you're gonna have the attention, the sponsorships, the hype, everything around it. So the only thing that is making whoever in the world at this point in time the best league in the world is just because of the interest and everything else that surrounds it.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. So we'll go back to MLS just right quick. Another question from Stephen Meerman. He asked, "How was Tata at Atlanta?" Tata?
I would say Tata was good, but I would say that thankfully I was experienced enough to understand what he had to do at Atlanta. It's like any manager; they have to bring in their imprint at a club and form the identity, and he did that very well for Atlanta. In 2 years' time, you go on to win multiple trophies, and then he's off on his on his moped, but he did absolutely well for them. In the first year, it was nice working with him. Even though I didn't really play that much, and then coming into my injury, that I had to just slow down and then retire after that. But it was a good experience for me to see a different outlook from a manager in terms of football and his style. I think it worked pretty well for him, because bringing his style of football or tactics of football to the MLS is something that they're not accustomed to. So you basically have to maintain your principles, all the way through, and the results kind of take care of themselves, just because it is something that new to them.
Mm-hmm. So we were obviously talking about your time after Sunderland here, but you play almost 90 games for Stoke and 65 for Cardiff. How did it compare playing for those teams after you'd been at Sunderland?
It was okay. Stoke, obviously a different size of club, but very good fans. It was good. It was good to a point, but then, like I say, when you have managers and stuff being dishonest, it creates a lot of tension within the club, and unfortunately at Stoke that did happen in the latter stages. But it was a good time. Cardiff again, that was a bit crazy. Fans absolutely amazing. Owner of the club, he's okay, had some good intentions, but I guess the execution of those intentions was a bit wrong. It didn't sit right with people who are accustomed to things running one particular way. And it was unfortunate that they weren't as successful as they would like to be. But again, when you have clubs on the outskirts of certain places, certain leagues, I would say, it's difficult for them to come up top and to be sustainable, because I mean, if you're not gonna attract the best players and you don't have a ton load of money where you can buy those players and entice them to come to your club and play and a top level manager and that type of stuff, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna have to go through the hard process of the journey, no matter how long it takes for you to become successful. But it was great. It was great. I had a fabulous time. Again, got to meet people and work with managers and learn stuff from them. It was great.
Yeah. So let's talk about the situation currently in Trinidad and Tobago with the FA there. I personally remember, I think we mentioned this offline. I remember a time when it wasn't uncommon to see players from this system playing in the top European leagues. You could say that was like mirrored when you think about, yourself, Carlos, Dwight, and Stern John being in and around the Premier League at the same time. What do you think has changed, if anything, to prevent players from achieving like these standards needed to be successful in Europe?
Well, it's again, system is broken. It's like anything else. Is if you do not run an administration in the way that it should be, to produce that growth and that and also replenishing talent, because these days I think that we are awed by you know special talents, but most of the football players are made the way that you know coaching is these days, and development of players these days. Most players are made, but the talented ones are the ones that are stand out, right? The naturally talented. I think we've never been amiss of talent in this country. I just think for quite a long period of time we've not made the proper investments in every structure, in facilities, in administration, in coaching even. And then also we have a problem where people that were at the head of football maybe 40 years ago or 50 years ago, they're still in those positions now. They haven't given room for people who are knowledgeable theoretically in management, administration, in marketing, in every aspect, even in coaching in a lot of places, the room to be able to come through and to help keep on reproducing the top class talent. Um, Everything is connected. I'm not going to blame one situation for it not being the way that it is. Everything is connected. But obviously, the sore thumb that is sticking out at this present time is the federation's business. That is an absolute shit show at this present time. The optics are going to look bad for both sides because, according to the local routes that we've taken, it could force us to get banned from FIFA for I don't know how much of a time they feel like, because we are operating outside the statutes that the member associations for football have signed up to. But at the same time, I think it's gonna have a lot of bad optics for FIFA also, because now it's gonna look like a petulant baby. They didn't get their way due to the backdoor or under the table negotiations or dealings that they have been doing, and seeing that they didn't get their way and someone who is meant to be smaller decides to stand up to them,
Yeah.
they're gonna flex their muscle, but the optics is gonna be bad, because then people are gonna start questioning their governance. And FIFA is an institution unto itself. It has its own laws. It's in its own safe haven. Apart from the slap on the wrist and the bad PR from time to time, they have seemingly done a lot of good for a long period of time. But it's not going to be good for anybody in the end.
Sure.
Well, speaking of things that might be a little bit broken, Jakey Newest wants to know what your opinion about the current state of Sunderland is.
Again, Sunderland is broken, and I don't know what it is that is not going to help that club stabilize and become the giant that it needs to be. Whether it be I don't know, if development needs to go up there in terms of the area, whether you need to have a little bit more flash for people to come up there and live, so that you attract better talent. Maybe the running of the club. Who knows? It's just very difficult to quite put your finger on it of why Sunderland cannot be a top 8 club. Because they have the fan base to do it, stadium to do it, training ground to do it, but they're not seeming to attract the players to do it. And it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, but I would like to see them get back up to where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think it's new ownership that's needed to put things right? I mean, have you got any specifics on what you think they need to do to correct course?
No, I don't know. I really don't. What can you say? Is it managers? Is it players? Is it owners of the club? It's definitely not facilities.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it really? No one knows. No one knows. And I think that's the most disheartening part, is that no matter what you try to suggest happen, nothing seems to work at this present time. But they're gonna have to keep plugging away, and I do believe everyone has their time and season, and Sunderland's season and time will come for them to kick on.
We like that. I like that. That's just so positive. I mean, I think we're all sitting in here, watching Sunderland week in, week out, and then we're always looking for something to blame. And I think that, I mean, that's just that's
what you do. Remember, if you look back at the history of football, remember, of recent times in the Premier League era, Manchester United have been dominated, and you have the resurgence of Chelsea and Man City and whatnot. Arsenal even, but people always go on the nostalgia that Liverpool, 80s are the best team in England, this, that, rightfully so. But they've had to endure 30 years without winning a league.
Yeah.
And they're a big club.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, in hindsight, that is their misfortune. It's not to say that they've ever been close to relegation or, not getting into Europe and that type of stuff, not winning a Carling Cup here or there, but what they most prize at the Premier League, they wasn't able to do it. But that's their misfortune. That's for them, that's their club in disaster. Right?
Yeah.
Manchester United's club in disaster now after being so dominant. You're scraping in to get in the top 4. We need to get right. This is not the Manchester United way, this, that, and the other. But they're in and around. But that is their misfortune.
Yeah.
So every club has misfortune. Leeds just come back into the league. Leeds is such a huge club. They was in Premier League. They had this and this players, but then for such a long time, they've been League One Championship. That was their misfortune. Now their season and time has come around.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be, for them, a kickstart into them being back in the Premier League for however long. You never know.
Yeah.
But their season has now come around.
Yeah.
So no matter what the misfortunes of your club are, your time and season for you to be stable in whichever division or where the place that you think that the club should be, you'll get that opportunity again.
I think they should replay that what you just said there before every single game at the Stadium of Light at the start. Never mind for coffee ever out like that. That should be like a big speech right there. That's got me excited about next week now. That's brilliant.
Well, hopefully, at the end of the day as well, like Southampton for me has been a good club, but they went through their struggles where they dropped down to League Two, but they built themselves back up. So you just need the timing of the right manager and the right ideal for the club in building and accepting the place that you're in at the point in time and not where you think you should be is a more realistic level for you to start with.
Yeah.
Yes, you want to get back to a certain level, but accept the fact that you're on the ground now and you have to work your way up. Mm-hmm. So do the things that are necessary to stabilize you and move you up from the ground level by level until you get back to that point. Because what that does is lends to the experience you'll have when you do get back to the top. So you will go about your business a bit more cautiously than you would have in the past.
Yeah. So now that you've given me such good advice, I mean, that's again wonderful takeaways. What was the best advice that you were given in your career?
Look after number one. Mm-hmm. And I was given that by Roy Keane because, one day after training, we was having a conversation and he was like, all of this, it's good for you to stay at a club for however long, you win trophies or whatever, but the day that they want to get rid of you, not everyone has that, ceremonious great red carpet exit from a club. As much as you've given your life, and you do give your life. People don't understand that football is like having a regular job. All the stress, all the pressure, sometimes even more magnified because your office is in the public view, more or less. While people get to hide behind windows and buildings and cubicles, you're out being judged every single minute.
Yeah.
And he was like, don't be too caught up in the story of being loyal, and if you have the chance to move, you move. If you have the chance to make your money, you make your money, because in the end the club will chew you up, spit you out, and then when you're finished, you're forgotten, because this football is a cycle. Just 10 years ago you were playing football, but 12 years ago there's a new hero, there's a new team, you're forgotten, there's new memories to be made, that type of thing. So while you're in it, make sure you do your best, achieve the most that you can out of it, but don't get caught up in the in the credits. Don't get caught up in the credits ever.
I thought you were going to say don't get caught with your boss's daughter. I thought that's what you were going to say there.
No. Sorry.
So good. So what was your proudest moment as a footballer then?
Being able to have my parents come see me play. I brought my dad to the FA Cup final. My brother came to see me play in the World Cup. My mom came to see me play at Southampton. Those are the proudest moments in football for me.
Brilliant.
Knowing the family that I grew up in, where I've come from. We're in a country that is probably 1.5 million people, and being able to leave where I am to make it on the stage that I have and to have the impact that I had, I'm grateful for that. I'm blessed to have that, to have had that opportunity, and being able to share those moments with them was the proudest thing for me. There's nothing, there's no trophy, there's no medal, there's nothing that could top that.
What do you think your biggest accomplishment was inside and outside of football, Kenwyne?
The biggest accomplishment for me is not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to say that. I think it might be being able to represent. Again, being from Trinidad and Tobago, getting there and being able to inspire a generation of players to go on and try and achieve their dream. Outside of the game, my biggest accomplishment hasn't. That I can't say what that is yet, because thank God I still have some life. I'll be able to pass on knowledge, experience to my children first of all, and to kids around me. Maybe make an impact in my country on a level where it has nothing to do with football, really. So I can't really say what that is going to be yet. Until my book is closed, I'm still writing that part of my story.
Come on. So other than Sunderland, obviously, which club would you have really wanted to play for?
AC Milan.
Fair enough.
Because I'll be honest with you, I was never a big fan of English football clubs. I used to follow Manchester United because obviously Dwight Wendy and Aston Villa. I used to follow them. A bit, but I've grown up on Italian football, and I've supported that team from day one. So I'm not a bandwagonist. I like I like to stay on with the teams that I follow.
Excellent.
Kenwyne, who came up with this stipulation that you had to play for teams that wore red and white stripes on their kits? Was that a family thing? Your agent?
Again, that was just a part of destiny that happened, and I did not even think about that, to be honest with you. I mean, from school, that was our colors, red, white, and black stripes, and I guess it followed me throughout my entire life. That those are one of the coincidences I think I had in my career. That, and along with the fact that every team that I play for, I scored on my debut. That's so
Who's the
it is what it is.
who's the biggest joker that you've met in football?
There are a few. But it depends on what type of joker you're talking about. Whether
anybody
it be
set fire to your
or
shoes or anything?
someone just. Sorry,
Did anyone set fire to your shoes or anything like that?
I don't think they would dare do that. But I don't mind if they did. That would have been funny. To be honest, it would have been really funny, because I would have probably set fire to their car. And you would have to laugh about it, because we're in the line of jokes here, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely. Brilliant. So going back to your playing days then as well. So you obviously heard, I mean, again, some of the players we've talked to about this said they were that focused on the game that they couldn't actually hear some of the songs from the stands. But was there any songs that you heard coming from the fans that have stuck with you, that you particularly enjoyed to hear while you were playing?
Oh no, Sunderland song for sure. That was amazing. It funny enough, everywhere I went, the fans had a song for me, which was fantastic. But Sunderland song, it meant a lot, because obviously, playing in the Premier League for them, and then they coming up with that song so quickly. I was pretty ingenious and inventive by them, though. I respect that so much.
Good.
It's a song I get in my my DMs almost every other day.
I'm sure you do.
To be honest.
Brilliant.
Well, speaking of the fans, Kenwyne, how would you describe the Sunderland fans in 3 words?
Passionate, loyal, expectant.
Oof, that's the first time we've had that. That's the first time we've had, yeah. That's yeah. I like that. So, how would you?
mean,
Go on. Sorry. Go on.
You have to. They are loyal, a loyal bunch. But they expect their club to be, a reflection of what they see. The club is a massive club, and they expect it to be a massive club, and they expect it to be at the highest level, and sustainably as well at the highest level, not yo-yoing like they've had for all that time. But that's what I can say about it. My views may be different from a lot of people.
No, again, it's an interesting perspective, definitely, because I think we know that we have a very, like you said, very passionate fan base, and sometimes, like you said, we always want what's best for the club, and in hand, what's best for the club is best for the city, and vice versa. So it's it's always good. So how would you sum up your time with Sunderland?
I loved it. I mean, the first 2 years was fantastic. My last year, because of obvious reasons, wasn't that much. But it's a place that I have a lot of time for, massive respect to. I have a lot of friends up there. The club itself, I genuinely love the club. It would always hold a dear place in my heart.
That's good.
Always.
What was the? Is there a moment as a Sunderland player that strikes out in your mind as being the most fun that you had during your time at the club?
Not. I don't. Those are not moments I can discuss, because those are all off the field moments, to be honest. But it just showed the type of club and players that was at the club at that time. We had a real togetherness, a real togetherness at that place. Some of the stories that would come out wouldn't be fair to the people, so I have to leave it there. But there are some moments that have been very memorable that made me love the place even more.
Oh, brilliant. Is there anything else? I mean, we're going to have to wrap this up shortly, Ken. Was there anything else that you would like to share with the fans?
No. I just want to see the club get back to the place that they need to be. I also want to see the club in itself be able to function in the way that it should, because I think the club deserves it. I think the fans deserve it. I think the city deserves it, because it's an amazing club. It's a fantastic group of people, and up in those neck of the woods, they deserve something great.
Well, I appreciate that. So, with that said, then I would like to obviously take this opportunity to thank you for your time and obviously for your service to the club as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's been great having your time. Obviously, we wish you all the very best with your future endeavors as well. So hopefully, whether it be in politics or whatever path you choose, we wish you all the very best.
Yeah, well, right now the pandemic is winning, so we'll see how it goes.
I know. I'd also like to thank Gavin for his time and thank everybody at home for tuning in. Keep an eye out on our Facebook page for upcoming talk-ins, including a certain Julio Arca. Since this is the last talk-in before the start of the 2021 season, I'll start again. I haven't had my teeth in today. Since it's the last talk-in before the start of the 2020-21 season, the Sons of Liberty would like to take this opportunity to wish the lads all the very best for this upcoming campaign as we continue to keep the faith. Absolutely. Until next time, stay healthy and stay safe, lads. Thanks again, Kenwyne. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Take care, mate.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.